Hey, Surface fans, Microsoft fans, techies of all flavors. This is Jason L. Ward, JL Tech Word at J Talking Tech. I'm here with my second Surface Duo video. Now, if you're looking for a review or if you're looking for to hear about the specs, this is not the place for you. I want to talk about some of the things that an analysis of maybe the positioning of the device, how the world is looking at this device, and some of the challenges this device may have. A little thoughtful look into things. You can read the spec sheets all day long everywhere else. But if you really want to talk about this device and where it fits in this world and some of the challenges it might face and the advantages it has, JL Ward, J Talking Tech, this is the place to be. Now, today I want to talk about the Surface Duo. Of course, those who haven't heard about it, I can't believe you're here if you haven't. But Surface Duo is Microsoft's first pocketable productivity device. Don't you dare call this a phone. It is not a phone. Go to Microsoft's website. It'll show you that this device is being positioned along with its computers. Okay? This is not a phone. It does what a phone does, but it's not a phone. We'll talk about that again later in another video. But today we want to talk about some of the challenges it's faced. One challenge in particular, the challenge that has been plaguing Microsoft in its mobile efforts for many years now. Now, this might sound a little crazy to you, but I'm going to say it anyway. Microsoft Surface Duo might have to face the effects of an app gap. Okay, you're looking at Jason, you're about to stop the channel and go somewhere else because that sounds crazy. How can Microsoft be facing the possibility of an app gap when you're using Android? Android has millions of apps, right? And that's one of the reasons Microsoft intentionally chose Android, because that's where the users are, that's where the developers are. There are millions of apps in the Google Play Store, so there cannot possibly be an inherent deficit of apps for the platform. And you're correct, there is not. However, Microsoft has not launched a normal pocketable device. They're launching a device that is meant to be a productivity device, taking advantages of different postures. Now, this is an important point to the point that I'm making, so I want you to stick with me for a moment here. Microsoft is touting that the Microsoft Surface Duo is going to be used by its users in various postures that take advantage of the two screens and the synergy that those two screens has with the software, both Android as the OS and the apps that are used across the hardware. There's to be a synergy of the hardware and the software that makes this device a powerful, pocketable productivity device across different postures. Now, first posture is the book mode. Now, this book mode is sort of like you would have the two screens side by side that can work together simultaneously. Now, this can be used in a way where you have two independent apps that are, of course, independent one another, but you use them simultaneously. And there's an advantage to that, different windows where, and I can attest to this because I use the LG GAX Thin Q with these dual case screens, and having two apps side by side, and it was very I knew it was going to be a great experience, but it was just really revealing to me just how powerful that experience is when you have one app on one screen. You don't have to close it down, you don't have to minimize it, you don't have to put it to the side to go and use another app. You can keep it open and just use another app at the same time. It's a very powerful experience. And so that is one of the experiences that Microsoft is really pushing with the Microsoft Surface Duo, being able to use two windows, two apps side by side, and not having to close down one app to utilize another. Now, alongside that headlining positioning is also something else Microsoft is pushing, which is one app optimized to work across both of those screens, right? One single app optimized to work across both screens, such as the Amazon Kindle app. It is a singular app that is optimized to work across both screens in book mode. And you also see some of Microsoft apps. They have taken the lead, and they have made many of their apps able to work across both screens, just showing how this platform is supposed to work. They're leading the way. And I do give them credit for this, because if you're a Windows Phones fan, you would know that one of the complaints that many of us had was that Microsoft did not take advantage of its ability, its power, and its resources to make the Windows Phone and Windows Mobile platform the best it could be by leading the way with developing apps for its own platform. But here with the Microsoft Surface Duo and Android, they have about 9 apps where they have led the way with with showing other developers how to optimize their apps across both screens. All right. So again, using 2 screens simultaneously and one single app optimized for both screens is something that Microsoft is looking to do with book mode. Now you also have compose mode, which gives you sort of like a pocketable laptop configuration where you have one screen on top, where you have whatever you're working on, and perhaps a document, Word document, or text messaging, and then you have a virtual keyboard at the bottom, a really fancy looking pocketable laptop configuration. You also have the dual landscape mode, where you have the 2 full screens laying horizontal above one another, and this singular app can work across this format as well, where you have sort of maybe an infinite scrolling web pages. You may have Pinterest, other apps that might be really optimized to work across both those screens. Then you have tent mode, where you have the sort of upside down V configuration. You put that on the desk, watch some videos, watch a movie, have a conference call, something like that. You also have the single screen mode. All right, the single screen mode is your usual basic candy bar sort of smartphone configuration that we're all accustomed to. Might even have a stylus where you can use it in one hand and stylus in the other. Then you have, finally, you have the peak mode, where you sort of just open up that Surface Duo a tad bit, check out a notification, check out the time. All right, but again, you might ask, well, what do you mean there's an app gap? All right, the different modes is fundamental to this particular outlook or analysis. Microsoft did not position another phone in the mobile space. And I just have to be very clear here. There is a difference between the mobile space and the smartphone space. You can have a smartphone, which is a mobile device, but a mobile device does not necessarily have to be a smartphone. All right, the mobile space is broad. It's more like an umbrella, where different devices can exist within that, underneath that umbrella. Smartphone is a mobile device, but a mobile device does not necessarily have to be a smartphone. Surface Duo exists underneath that umbrella of mobile devices. It is not a smartphone, though it has though it can function in the configuration as a smartphone, but it also has different use case scenarios and is positioned as a productivity device, taking advantage of the various postures that I've just explained. Now, in order for this device to succeed as a productivity device that Microsoft is touting and is positioning and hoping that it will succeed as, it must get the support of developers for the various postures that optimize on that synergy of hardware and software. That synergy of hardware and software across the different postures. You can't just have one posture that is successful, such as perhaps the single screen mode, which doesn't require any additional optimization. It can just be just like any smartphone that exists in the market in the single screen mode. You don't have to optimize apps for that. All the apps currently available for smartphones would work well on the Surface Duo's single screen mode. But when you begin to look at the positions and postures that Microsoft really wants us to embrace as something that sets this device apart from all other devices in the mobile space, that sets this device apart and really gives it advantages for productivity, you were looking at how that software will work across 2 screens, right? The synergy of the OS and the apps across that 2-screen hardware. Now, if we don't get apps that are optimized for that dual screen experience, then there is a gap, a deficit of apps for those various modes. Now, this is why this mobile device is very different than smartphones. This device has different modes, different postures where apps are positioned to act differently across these different modes. a typical smartphone with one screen, you have just one expectation of how apps are going to work across that one sort of mode. Here you have multiple modes, and you need to have apps that are going to be optimized to work across those modes. Now, if Microsoft cannot win developers over to support the various modes that it is headlining this device with, that book mode where a single app can really be optimized across those two screens and be really productive, or give you a unique experience, or the really optimized perhaps across that landscape mode, then the experiences are somewhat hampered because you don't have apps that really take advantage of each mode. So right now, of course, and I'll be candid, and I'm not slamming Microsoft. This isn't a slam against Microsoft at all. I support the platform. I'm probably one of the biggest Windows mobile fans out there. Matter of fact, I still use a Windows phone in conjunction with an Android phone. But anyway, Microsoft needs to get the support of other developers. And they positioned and launched this device back in October of 2019 with the communicated intention that developers would use that year from October 2019 to the intended launch time of holiday season 2020 to begin developing apps across that time span that will be optimized for the experiences that Microsoft really wants us to have and embrace on the Surface Duo. Granted, we've been hit with a global pandemic, and I am certain that the impact of the pandemic has affected the livelihood, the lives of the plans of businesses, plans of developers, perhaps their goals, and maybe the working with Microsoft to develop apps for the device that they perhaps would have collaborated with Microsoft to achieve. Those things may have been hampered, slowed down, or perhaps some may even been canceled due to the impact of the pandemic. And also the secondary effect of having so few apps so far, which is below 20, I believe, at this time. I may have missed a few. But we also have the fact that it's launching earlier, probably several months earlier than it was intended. So the combination of the coronavirus pandemic and launching earlier than intended may be one of the reasons why we only have less than 20 apps. I'll go through the apps that I currently know of. Now, if anybody knows of any more, throw that in the comments. But this is what we have so far. Microsoft is leading the way with Microsoft SwiftKey Keyboard, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft To Do, Edge, Launcher, News, Office, OneDrive, OneNote, and Outlook. And beyond those, I believe 9 or so, outside of those Microsoft first-party apps or third-party apps are, and forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Maleo, Spotify, Adobe Acrobat Reader, Amazon Kindle, and Jira. Those 5. That's it, outside of Microsoft's. Now, again, I may have missed a few, but even considering the reality of the pandemic and launching earlier, it is somewhat disconcerting that we have so few apps that are optimized for the experiences that Microsoft wants us to have on this device that is meant to have different postures and apps working very well or differently across some of these postures. So, app gap. Is it possible that Microsoft is going to face an app gap, not an inherent gap of apps or deficit of apps for the Android platform that this device is founded upon, but a gap in relation to the experiences that Microsoft wants us to have in relation to various postures that this device is meant to give us. If the hardware can give us those positions, but the software cannot, then the synergy of software and hardware will be lost, and we will be somewhat gimped in our experiences of what this device is really positioned to give us, that powerful experience of productivity that this device is really meant to give us. Now, I hope that does not happen. We are very early on here. The device is not even in the public's hands yet. We're less than a year since its announcement. So this is not a doom and gloom video at all. It's just sort of an analytical look at perhaps some of the challenges that Microsoft may face and perhaps overcome. We do know that Microsoft is working very closely with Google and making Android itself a great platform for these dual screen experiences. And Microsoft, rather Google, is working really hard as well in the background to try to build out Android and work on Android to support dual screen experiences. So there's a long way to go here. That we are at this is the very first device in a category of devices that I continue to say, as I've been saying in some of the articles that I've written going back several years now, that this could be, using a little fanciful thinking here, the beginning of a category of mobile device akin to the mobile computer that you see in the series Westworld. Right? I've never seen the series myself, never watched it, but I've seen the device that they use, where this device can be taken out of the pocket and configured across unfolded and used as a computer and a communication device. You don't call that a phone, though. It can make phone calls. I believe that this device is somewhat, if you were to relate it to some category, to give some sort of framework, well, where can this device fit? Because we may not don't have a name for it quite yet. Where can this device fit? That gives me kind of a context, right? That device in Westworld gives us a kind of a context of the type of category that this device would fit in. It's not a phone. It's a mobile device that fits in this productivity category. And again, the synergy between that hardware and software is very key here. So hopefully Microsoft will not be plagued with what it has been plagued with as its legacy for many years now in AppGap. Hopefully we'll get some more developers to jump on board, like Adobe and Amazon, to really make these experiences great across every single posture that Microsoft's hardware is able to achieve for us as the users. So let me know your thoughts. Jump in comments. Tell me, do you think Microsoft is perhaps challenged with this, or is it too early to tell? All right. See you next time. JL Ward, Jason Ward, J Talking Tech. Thank you for watching. Please share. Have a good one, guys.